Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. You know, with the markets up 22% over the last 5 weeks, I'm sure there are a lot of traders out there with their eyes on buying stocks. And I thought what we'd do today is just focus on the tools available on Thinkorswim desktop platform that support that effort. So we're going to talk about how a trader might find stocks to trade, plan a trade, place a trade, monitor the trade, exit the trade, really going A to Z in this process. We're going to be learning a lot of tools today, having a lot of fun. Before we can get to any of that, though, let me first of all say hello to everybody who's out there in YouTube. Great to see a lot of familiar names. Great to see a lot of first-time names out there as well. Hello there, Will and Eva, Steve, Ricebird, Greg, Muse, Anna, Nelson, Jackson, Julia, and on that list goes. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. Thanks for joining us week after week. It's always appreciated. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the fact, if you're just watching the recording of this presentation, enjoy the show, but be aware that you're invited to join us in the live discussion. This is a Wednesday webcast series, and we kick things off promptly 2 Eastern time each Wednesday. I'd love to have you here in the live stream audience. I also want to let our live stream audience know that my very good friend Kevin Horner is going to be hanging out in the chats with us today. Kevin's going to be addressing any questions that I can't get to just during the flow of the presentation. Thanks for having my back there, Kevin. And Kevin and I can also, we would also like to issue an invitation to you. If you're listening to this presentation right now, if you have an account with X, follow your favorite presenters on X. It's the best place to connect with those presenters in between the live streams. You can find Kevin on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. But let's get into this discussion of the tools that support the effort of trading stocks on Thinkorswim. And as we do that, of course, we need to consider the risks associated with doing so. So these disclosures are important, so bear them in mind. The information here is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation or endorsement of any particular security, chart pattern, or investment strategy. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as the sole means of investment research. Investing involves risks, including the loss of principal, and any investment decision you make in your self-directed account is solely your responsibility. Okay, so with that said, let's set a basic agenda for what we're going to be doing today. I've already sort of given it away. We're going to be talking about the tools on Thinkorswim desktop that support a trader's effort to find stocks to trade, to plan those trades, to place those trades, to monitor those trades, and to exit those trades. So we're going to be using those tools, using an example trade, just to follow it all along the way from start to finish. So let's go to Thinkorswim desktop. And as I do, so here's Thinkorswim. And if you're not familiar with Thinkorswim, it is desktop, it's software that can be downloaded from within your Schwab Online account. It doesn't cost anything. It does connect to your live accounts, but it also provides a practice version called Thinkorswim Paper Money. But to download this, you just go to your online account, log in, and then go to the Trade tab and just look for Thinkorswim. Right there it says Thinkorswim Desktop. You click on that. There's going to be a big blue button. You just click there, and it'll just walk you right through the process, whether you're using a PC or a Mac. Learn how to enable Thinkorswim. This will download the software. It'll create an icon on your computer's desktop. It'll add Thinkorswim to your start menu. So you just launch Thinkorswim, log in using your Schwab credentials, and you're off and running, just like what you'll see here. Now, as you log in, it will ask you, well, do you want paper money or do you want to do some live trading? So today we're going to be doing some paper money trading. And you'll notice up here in the upper left, it's giving us some nice reassuring terminology. This is a simulated trading environment, no risk here. It has the ability to simulate risk, but we won't encounter any real risk today. So, yeah, here's a quick chart of the S&P 500, and you can see here we hit those lows first week of April, right at the end of the first week of April. Here we find ourselves in the second week of May, and the S&P 500 average component companies up 22% off those lows. So yeah, I thought stocks might be top of mind for a lot of traders. Let's talk about trading stocks. So what do we begin with? Well, a trader might have a concept of the sort of stock they'd be interested in trading, but they need to find those stocks that fit that profile. Well, there are tools to support that effort. We might, typically we might go, let's go do a search or a filter or a screen. Well, on Thinkorswim Desktop, it's known as a scan. So let's go do an example scan. Lots of features at each step along the way here. I can't cover everything in just one webcast. So I do want to make a suggestion to everybody watching. If you have a keen interest in one of these steps, you want to see it shown in greater detail, I've actually put together a series of lessons to give a more complete introduction to using this Thinkorswim desktop software. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, pop down below, down in the lower right-hand corner, there's a subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It only takes a second, but this is where we house previous webcasts. So our full channel name is Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcast. You can find us there on YouTube, and you can find our playlist right there on our homepage. Of course, you can join the live streams right here as well. But the playlist that I put together for you to really learn Thinkorswim, you just click on playlists and go down to the second line. It's actually going to have Connie's face on it because Connie's built upon this. But I'm going to click on View Full Playlist. And there are some shorts that Connie has added to round out your Thinkorswim understanding. But down below are those lessons. Lesson 1 of 8, Lesson 2 of 8, Lesson 3 of 8, and so on. All right, so there we go. But let's go back to Thinkorswim and let's start to build a scan. Now we can scan in all corners of the marketplace. Let's say that our trader has a particular interest in maybe one of the sectors. Could be, I don't know, financials or healthcare or energy or whatever. But you'll notice on this scan tool, one of the first functions, it says, where do you want to scan? Do you want to scan in all stocks? Or would we like to route this to a specific area, like shall we scan by industry? Let's do that. And I think for today, how about we look for the information technology sector? Let's just select that. So what this immediately does is there are 11 sectors that make up the component companies of the S&P 500. This is just going to narrow that to just those in the information technology sector. So we've already trimmed the potential field of candidates down dramatically. Now, this is just an example. I'm not saying information technology is the place to be, just a tool demonstration. But next up, we need to tell the system what sorts of stocks we're looking for within that technology sector. And there are some default menus here, but there's some other menus that we can add in addition to these. So let's use the defaults first. These are going to be stock oriented. We could do, we can look for other things, but today we're using the stock hacker because we're looking for stocks. And how about the first thing we look for? Let's say that our hypothetical trader is looking for a big company. Now, big is a relative term, but even like $1 billion company could be classified as a small capitalization stock. If you're not familiar with market capitalization, it really just describes the size of a company. If we take the price per share and multiply it by the number of shares that are trading, it gives us an indication of how big that company is. So let's say we have a stock that's trading $100 per share and there are 1 million shares. That's a $100 million company. Well, that would actually be firmly in the small cap category, maybe even micro cap. But let's say that our trader is interested in the large capitalization companies, $10 billion or larger, and maybe their requirements are even stronger than that. How about we say, let's choose from our menu here, market cap in millions of dollars, and I'm going to put it as my minimum, 50,000. Now that's actually 50,000 million, which is $50 billion, and that's going to narrow this down. Notice there are only 52 companies in that information technology sector that are $50 billion companies, still pretty big companies. Now, let's say that our trader also has a preference for maybe price per share. Possibly they don't like the lower price stocks. There may be more inherent volatility there. So we're going to filter for price. And a term that you'll see used on Thinkorswim is MARK. Now, you'll also see bid and ask, but MARK is an abbreviation for market price. So I'm going to choose MARK here. And how about for our today's example? Let's say that our trader wants to see among their $50 billion companies, only those that are priced at least $50 per share. So we'll set that as a minimum. Now, if we'd like to, we could also set maximums. I'm not going to be doing that today. but we could establish ranges for any of these criteria. Now, let's use a third default criteria, and maybe, our trader's already looking for very large capitalization companies, priced at least $50 per share. Maybe among those, they want to see only those that are actually generating an earnings or a net profit from operations. Well, one of the other things that we can choose here on our menu, let's maybe go for earnings per share. And how about we assign that a minimum value? How about at least $5 per share? If we have at least $50 stocks generating at least $5 per share, we should be seeing some comparatively substantial earnings. But not every company is going to meet every one of these criteria. We're narrowing the field. We started off with thousands just by selecting information technology. We narrowed that dramatically. By selecting market capitalization, we got it down to 52, and now we're kind of slicing that up. TNW MWME says the video is not what I see on my Thinkorswim. Well, so if your Thinkorswim looks dramatically different than mine, two things could be the case. Number one, there are actually three different versions of Thinkorswim. You have Thinkorswim Desktop, which is the software that I showed how to download. We have Thinkorswim Mobile, which is on your phone, which is just like most apps. It's not the full version. But then we also have Thinkorswim Web, which is actually a website. And if you're on the website or if you're using mobile, it's going to look totally different than what we're seeing here. The other thing that it should just be a color scheme. Right up here, I could change my settings and change the look and feel to like dark. This is pretty common. And so that looks totally different. But I'm going to switch this back up. I like the lighter setting. There we go. Let's apply that setting. So that's it. That's what I'd suspect. Of course, I'm not seeing what you're seeing, so I don't know exactly what you're viewing as a difference, but I hope that helped. All right, so already we may have a pretty limited number of stocks, but we've hit the bottom of available criteria, and you might think, well, is that the extent of this tool's capabilities? No, no, no. We can actually continue to add filters using the plus add filter up here in the upper right. I'm going to click on that. We can continue to add other stock filters. So we'd be given the opportunity to choose more from this menu, or there are additional menus for scanning for options. We could look for the fundamentals of the company behind the stock, or we could use what are called study filters. We could add study filters. A study filter examines what's going on in the stock chart. So what we might think of as a technical study or a technical tool, we can use those to scan for charting performance metrics. I'm not going to be doing that today. Let's add a final filter as a fundamental filter. And again, let's focus maybe on profitability here. Earnings per share is one metric. How about we select from this new menu? You can see lots of different fundamental performance criteria that we could choose from. I'm just really showing the tools. I'm not at all intending to say that this is the way a scan should be conducted. This is really just to illustrate how to navigate around on the scan tools. But let's choose maybe net profit margin since we're here. There we go. Net profit margin, how much? Well, for each dollar in sales, after covering expenses, how much is left over in the form of profits? And how about our trader is relatively demanding, and they say they want to see at least a 20 cents on the dollar profit requirement. Okay, so in any case, however we construct those metrics, however a trader sees their preferred stock looking or appearing, this scan function is designed to help us find those kinds of stocks. But let's scan. Let's see what we get. All right, looks like we have, what, about a dozen companies out of the many thousands out there that happen to be information technology stocks that are $50 billion companies, trading at least $50 per share, generating earnings on a comparatively wide profit margin. Eric says, can you post your videos within Schwab websites? You don't support... we don't post our videos. Oh, you mean the little tiny ones, Eric? These videos are actually posted on YouTube. So yeah, make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. That's where you'd go find the archive for this webcast, for example. But we already have positions in our paper money portfolio on Microsoft. How about we use Apple as our example today? So there's a demonstration of a tool that might support a trader's effort to find stocks to trade. Now let's maybe plan how we want to execute that trade. And for some traders, they use charts to do that. So I'm going to go to the chart tool. Let's load up Apple by typing in the symbol. And right now I'm on a 1-year daily chart. We could change the time frame right up here if we'd like. But for some traders, they might just look at the chart, get a visual on what they see is important in that price activity, however they define that, and then make a plan that way. Or they may use things like our drawing tools down here in the lower right. You'll notice I've selected the trend line drawing tool. And for example, maybe our trader has noted that there was a period when the stock was going up, where it was seemed to be adhering to rising price floors. And as long as that is continuing, maybe they look for this price to get down close to that price floor and then plan a bullish trade. But then when that floor is broken, for some traders, they see stocks going down, and during that time frame, they don't consider it to be bullishly tradable. They may wait for price to break back up through that trend line and start to show signs of life again. Interestingly, just over the last few days, this appears to have done that. Now, that's not a guarantee of performance on Apple, but for some technicians, they might see that as a significant recent development. So traders might draw some lines in the mind. They might actually use the drawing tools on Thinkorswim to draw the lines physically on the chart. Still others might look for these trends using technical tools. Now, there are hundreds of technical tools out there in the trading universe for using stock charts. And actually, we have hundreds of technical tools available right here on Thinkorswim. Let me right-click on my drawing here. I can right-click and remove that drawing or just clear the whole set of drawings that I just made. That's what I'm going to do here. Let's just click yes, and it just erases those drawings. And let's go up and add a tool. Now, I'm going to use one as an example, but you'll see in the menu, hundreds are available. I'm going to click on our little flask icon, which grants access to our technical studies. And let's say that our trader uses something known as a simple moving average. Now, our studies are in alphabetical order. I could just look down to the S's and find it there. Or we can do a keyword search, and there's our simple moving average study. Let's add that to our chart. And by default, Thinkorswim is going to be showing a relatively short-term moving average for traders that are relatively quick getting in and out. Let's maybe extend that out a little bit. I'm going to use a little gear icon here. Anytime you see a gear on Thinkorswim, it means that we can customize the tool that we're using. So let's click on that, and let's change this from just 9 days worth of data to generate our tool. Let's change that to a 50-period simple moving average or a 50-day moving average. Click OK, and then click Apply. And if you're not familiar with a moving average, that's okay. I'll explain briefly what it is, but also just know we have webcasts that are dedicated to understanding charts in greater detail. So if you want to check that out, you would just go to our channel, look for I would suggest the webcast is called Getting Started with Technical Analysis, which I actually taught for years. Now it's being taught by another one of our fabulous coaches, but it'll introduce you to things like this simple moving average. But this is an indicator sometimes used by traders to identify potential significant trend shifts. As long as our simple moving average is running up, what this is telling us is that on average, over a given 50-day period, prices are rising. And when we start to see this line turning downward, that's an indication that maybe that sort of intermediate term trend is starting to move down. So you can see right here, it looks like there was a fairly significant shift. The moving average started heading down, and in that case, if price falls below that, some traders might be hesitant from a technical perspective to take new bullish trades until, just like when we were breaking above that downward sloping trend line that I drew on, in this case, it's a mechanical trend line that's been drawn, But for some traders, if price is able to move back up and through that moving average, what that means is that prices are now rising above where they've been on average over the last 50 days, basically. That may signal that there's some real strength here. Desert Saguaro says, my scan is stuck on waiting for results. That's probably a connectivity issue. I'm afraid I'm not the best technical support person, but yeah, shouldn't be, it's probably not a Thinkorswim related thing. So I don't know, Desert Saguaro. Sam says, your scan is stuck? Huh, interesting. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I haven't encountered that before. In any case, now we know how the trader might add technical tools or use drawing tools. These have been covered in much greater detail within my Getting Started with Thinkorswim webcast. Here's another suggestion I'll make. If you want to see a lot of these tools in greater detail, again, make sure you subscribe to our channel. But go to the playlists here, and I have that series of lessons that I created, but I expand well beyond those lessons in specific areas. If we scroll down to the bottom of these playlists, you'll see here's my webcast series, my full webcast series that I teach every week on an ongoing basis. It's called Getting Started with Thinkorswim. I think it's a great resource. Like, for example, when new tools are introduced, I try to be the first one to get them out to you, so I explain how they work. All right. Now, Sam, you're going a little bit outside what I'm discussing here. My apologies. I can't address, unfortunately, all the one-off questions. Just to keep this discussion on track, it's a good question. Anyway, let's say that our trader has now found a stock, and they've added their favorite indicator. I'm not saying this should be everybody's favorite indicator, but let's say that this is for a hypothetical trader. They see that price is rising above that, and it's time to buy. All right, it's a qualified stock in their eyes. It's a qualified moment in their eyes. How do we place the trade? Well, initially, let's just buy the stock, and then we'll make a plan for when a trader might exit that stock, either if it's working out and doing well, we want to harvest profits, or if it's underperforming and we want to try to minimize losses. But let's go place that trade. So how might a trader place the trade? Well, you might have already guessed. In order to trade, we're going to go to the Trade tab, type in our symbol here, if it's not there already, and then on Thinkorswim, all we have to do to initiate that the creation of that order is to click on the price under the word ask. When we're trading, an ask price, typically, that's what a trader will pay to enter into a new trade. The bid price is typically what the price that the trader will sell for when exiting a trade, or actually to enter a new trade. But I'm going to click on the ask price, and that creates an order to buy. By default, it's 100 shares. You can see that quantity right there. It's slightly obscured, so let me just widen that. You can click on the margins between these columns, widen and narrow those as needed. But in any case, let's place an order to buy 100 shares. So this is an order to buy 100 shares of stock. Apple, that's the security we intended to buy. Over here, we can put in some price requirements. So we can submit what's called a limit order. This is, if we want to put a cap on how much we want to spend per share. So right now, the stock looks like it's trading around $211.70. You can see the last trading price, $211.68. Let's say our trader doesn't want to spend more than $212. They could enter that as a limit, saying, hey, give me this price or below. I'm okay paying less, but not paying more. If the stock happens to run as they're placing that order, and it's no longer available at $212 or less, the order just doesn't fill. So that's known as a limit order. So there is a risk the order might not fill. Now, alternately, the trader might choose to place a market order. Market order just means, hey, I'm willing to spend whatever it takes to get into this trade. Whatever the market price is, when my order gets to the front of the line, I'll pay it. And that's what I'm actually going to do for this trade. Let's submit a market order. This is just a simulated trade. There's no risk in placing this trade. But I'm going to click confirm and send. We're going to put in an order to buy 100 shares of Apple at the market price. There's not a commission on this trade, but there can be on some types of trades. And here's a little reminder down here. With market orders, prices can change quickly in fast market conditions, resulting in execution prices that can be different from the quotes displayed at the time of order entry. Let's send that order off, and we should see a pop-up here in just a moment, right up here in the upper left. It'll tell us that our order filled. There it is. Bought those shares, $211.62. So we've found stock to trade. We've planned to trade. We've placed that trade. Well, now let's talk about monitoring and exiting the trade. So obviously we could go back to the chart and just look at what's going on with the day-by-day movement in price. But for some traders, they actually prefer to plan in advance where they'd like to exit. Chuck says, Cameron, would you not consider this stock to be below resistance, so why buy? So Chuck, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on the logic of placing trades. This is more about the tools of placing trades. Yeah, so some traders might look at this and say, I object to the timing of this. I could actually see your objection there. Here's what Chuck's talking about, just to give it a moment. There was a previous high right here, which coincides pretty neatly with some previous lows right here. That might be a little bit of resistance. Quick teaching moment. When a trader is trading a stock that has only recently started to reverse a downward move, if they're trying to get in at a time when there's no obvious previous price activity at that level, in other words, no obvious previous price ceiling indication, that is tough to do, because I think we could make an argument. A technician could say, it wasn't there a previous ceiling about here, and there was one right about there, and there was one right about there, and you know what? There was also one right through here, and there was one right there, and maybe right across. Oops, let me zoom back out a little bit more. These previous lows could be a potential price ceiling. These previous highs could be a potential price ceiling. This one right through here, oh, that could be a potential price ceiling there. Do you get my point? If we're waiting to get out of the weeds before entering, that trader might be waiting a long time. They may miss an entire move. Really, they'd have to wait till they get all the way above all-time highs. In any case, Chuck, I get it. But yeah, let me just clear up that drawing set. There we go. But let's just say that our trader is okay with the timing. Maybe though, just to borrow your logic, maybe they do think we could encounter a price ceiling up here at maybe 225 bucks. Well, they might have a plan. Hey, if we can get there, maybe I'll just take my profits at that level. If I'm in at 212-ish and out at 225-ish, that's a nice little 5% profit. And maybe they just want to take their profits there. On the other hand, maybe this trade starts to falter. Well, a common exit when using a moving average like this is that the reason to get in is that prices moved above that moving average. If it happens to go back down below that moving average, maybe they just hop right back out. So that's right now at about 209.5. Maybe we give it a little bit of wiggle room, but if it gets down to, who knows, maybe 208, how about we'll call it 207.5. Give it a couple of dollars of wiggle room down there. Just trying to put ourselves in the shoes of that trader again. But in any case, traders will commonly use charts to plan not only their entries, but they also plan when to take profits if profits manifest, or when to take losses. So using this as our hypothetical example, let's just say we own the shares, but we're happy to sell at 225, and we're going to pull the plug if we happen to fall down to 207.5. So how do we put that plan into practice? Well, we actually could place the order on our trade tab, but we can also place orders from our monitor screen. So I'm going to go to that monitor tab, and down here, we're going to see that new position in Apple. Just bought 100 shares. You'll notice it says quantity plus 100. It shows our trade price, 211.62. Some of you are probably going to look at your Thinkorswim, and your columns are not going to be exactly like mine. That's because I've done a little bit of customization here. It tells us the current market price. So we bought it at 211.62. It's 211.44. Should have taken Chuck's idea. We're losing 20 cents right now. So you can see that over here in our profit or loss columns. This column shows our profit or loss for the day. And this column gives us a running total since we took the trade called the profit or loss open. Or in other words, the total profit or loss since we opened the trade. See, if you were to look at like Walmart, it's up $129 today, but a total of $1,717, including today's advance of $129. So that's how we read these columns. But if yours don't look like mine, it's okay. You can actually customize this. Just click on little customize columns. And right here, it shows you the columns that are currently displayed. And if you don't have a column that you would like to have, like let's say the trade price wasn't there, let's remove it. Click OK. You'll notice, uh-oh, it's not there. Well, let's add it. So let's look for trade price. There it is. And let's add that. And then if we want to reposition it, we can just use the up and down arrows while we're highlighting it. So let's put it back up here next to days. Click OK. All right, so there we go. So now we have our trade price, what we paid for it, what it's worth right now, profit or loss. So this is where we would go to monitor the progress on a numerical basis, the performance of our trades since we initiated that. But it's also where we can put into practice our plan for when to exit. So here was our plan, just as a reminder, sell at 225 or sell at 207.5. So going to our monitor tab, let's go down to our existing position, and I'm going to right click on that position, and it gives me a menu. And within that menu, I can create a closing order. Now this sounds dramatic. I don't want to close the trade right now. No, I want to close the trade if price conditions are met. Either sell and take profits at 225 or sell and take losses at 207.5. Now, we can put both of those orders in at the same time using what's known as an OCO bracket. So I'm going to choose OCO bracket, and this takes us right to the trade tab. So now we're on the trade tab, and these are two red sell orders for the correct quantity. That's the quantity that we currently own, but it has a limit order and a stop order queued up. The limit order is the trade that will take us out if we happen to get to our profit target. So this, we just enter our price of $225. The stop order is the price at which we want to just let's sell and trim our losses. So I'm going to put in 207.50 here. Now, as I do that, I'm going to change both of these to a time in force, TIF, time in force, that is GTC. That means good till canceled. So the order stays in effect until we get up to our profit target, or we fall down to our stop loss level, or until I choose to maybe cancel these orders. Maybe I want to sell the stock on my own. I just need to cancel the orders. But in any case, with this stop order, we need to remember a stop order is not a guarantee that that's the worst we can do with this trade. So we bought in at, what was it, 211.60 cents and change? In this case, we're putting in an order that says, hey, Thinkorswim, if the price falls down to 207.5, get me out. Even if I have to sell for less than that. The 207.5 is a trigger price that fires off an order to get out, but after that, maybe we sell at 207.5, maybe we sell at 207, maybe it's lower, could even just go down and touch 207.5, bounce up a little bit, and we sell. But yeah, not a guarantee that we'll sell for that price, but that's how we can actually put into practice this plan to manage our exits. So let's go ahead and click confirm and send. And we get an order confirmation screen that I know when I first started trading, there was this little raise in my blood pressure, a little increase in my heart rate when I was placing these orders. A couple of things that I want to reassure you of. Number one, when we see this language, it makes us feel a lot better. This is a simulation. It's not a real trade. Okay, good. Not going to lose money either way. There's actually even a reset button within this paper money platform. If I screw things up dramatically, I can just reset it back to its defaults and start over again. So that's reassuring, but also we haven't committed to anything just yet. We haven't even sent the order off to market. This is just asking us, Cameron, are you really sure this is what you want to do? We're going to sell at 225. That's the limit price. That's the least we're willing to sell the shares for. I want to sell for 225, not a penny less. That's my limit. Or if it drops down to 207.5, stop the bleeding. I want out. So that's what that means. Now, you'll notice that designation that I selected, an OCO. That means that one of these orders, if it fills, is going to cancel the other one. So if the price goes up to 225 and we sell and take profits, it cancels the stop. If price falls down to 207.5 and we sell and take losses at whatever stop price we fill for, it cancels the limit order. All right, now there's not a commission to be paid on these stock trades, but there can be on other types of trades. And here's that reminder with the stop order. There is no guarantee that the execution price will be equal to or near the activation price of 207.50. So let's send that off. And with that, guys, we've actually accomplished what I set out to do today. When I launched things just about 35 minutes ago, I said, hey, markets are up. Let's talk about finding stocks to trade, planning the trade, placing the trade, monitoring the trade, and exiting the trade. So we've done all of that. I know that's quite a bit. That's one of the great benefits about the fact that we record and post the vast majority of our webcasts to our YouTube channel. If you're following us on YouTube, that's where you can go if you need to play a little bit of catch up. If you need to revisit something, revisit one of our webcasts, that's how you can do that. John says, stop then sells in a market after the stop price. You got it, John. Yeah. A stop order, unless you attach, you can get fancy with stop orders. And I'm not going to go that far in this discussion today, but just a plain old stop order triggers a market order to be sent to market. So you're exactly right. Chuck, all right, glad to hear it. I made today. That's excellent. I think we've covered everything. I'm just checking on chats. Somebody says, Cam, what was the webcast that shows how to use Thinkorswim and Paper Money at the same time? So here's a little tip. So I'm using Paper Money. If I wanted my live account at the same time to be open on Thinkorswim, you can actually just go down here to the Thinkorswim symbol and right-click on it and choose Thinkorswim, and it'll bring the login screen up. And then you can open up a second session of Thinkorswim at the same time. So you can have your Paper Money open at the same time as your live version. What I would say, one technique that I employ to keep them absolutely clear, even though Paper Money says simulated trading on it, it's still easy to get excited when you think you're on Paper Money, you have both of them open and you accidentally place a real trade when you're intending to do some practice trading, is keep the color scheme different between the two. I already showed you how to change from a light background to a dark background. So when I have both up and running, one is light, one is dark. There's no question in my mind which one I'm using. Okay, but yeah, look at this. I can log in right here and just switch over to live trading, log in with my username and password. Same username and password, only distinction being one's Paper Money, one's live trading. All right, guys, but we have done it. We've found a trade, we've planned a trade, we've placed a trade, we've monitored that trade, and we've placed an exit for that trade. So that's job done. I'm going to let you go, but as I do, I definitely want to make sure that you're optimizing your resources with Schwab Education. Number one is, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, do that now. Down in that lower right-hand corner, you can see a little button that says subscribe. Just click on that. It only takes a second. Literally, click on it and you're subscribed. That doesn't cost anything. Subscribe you to the channel, but our channel is where we house all of those playlists that I've showed. So I'll do it one more time. So our channel name, Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcasts. You can find our playlist right here. And if you want that playlist of getting started with Thinkorswim, my weekly webcast series, you can find it right down at the bottom. Somebody had to be at the bottom. They decided to put me down here at the bottom. Kevin's helping out. He did this webcast last week, filling in for me. That's why his face is on here. But also, second thing is to make sure that you're following Kevin and me on X. So you can find Kevin on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. Let me show you this. So on X, there's my handle, at Cameron May CS. Make sure you use precise typing. Don't let a typo slip in there, because there are other similar handles. Some are innocent, some not so much. But with social media, you always want to make sure that you're dealing with the right person. You got the right party on the other end of the line, at Cameron May CS. But this is the best place to connect with your favorite presenters in between the live streams. And you can also, like I post here, on things that I see developing in the markets, and I want to let my followers, make an observation about something, maybe some news that came out. I also just published little videos here. Here's a 2-minute video on a Thinkorswim tool. It can only be found on Thinkorswim. It's called the Market Forecast tool. So I explained how that thing works. You can see that from today's post. But yeah, make sure that you're following us on X. Everybody, thanks. I saw about 400 people watching this webcast, and I can see how many of you have given the thumbs up. 62 people have already clicked that thumbs up. That's definitely appreciated. If you watched a webcast and you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up as sort of your final applause before you hit the exits and you dump your popcorn in the bin. That is a pat on the back to your presenter. It also gives a boost to my webcast in the YouTube algorithm, helps more people find these sorts of discussions so they can learn about, like, placing stock trades on Thinkorswim. All right, everybody, thanks for giving me your time today. Kevin, thanks for helping out in chats. I'll let everybody go. I'm gonna scroll up through the chats one last time, see if I missed anything absolutely vital in the form of a survey, and I didn't, I don't think. Anyway. All right, I'll see you in a future webcast. I'll also see you on X, but whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.